King Wrench interior. It's one of my favorite. I love that interior. I love the details. There's a bunch of small logos all around. What's up, guys? JUL TORQ here, and today we're talking about the Ford Expedition. The Ford Expedition King Wrench 2024 for a full week. And if you know me, I used to own some large SUVs. I used to have a GMC Yukon Denali, but it got stolen in my driveway. This is typical Canada now. This is like the norm. This is typically normal. But my dad used to have a bunch of Expedition, Lincoln Navigator. Now he owns a Yukon Denali diesel. I had a lot of times with these type of big SUVs. I did a lot of big long road trip from Montreal to Miami and back and forth and all that. So I really dig those big SUVs. I'm not a type of guy who's always crying those big SUVs shouldn't be on the road and crying all the time. This is bad for the environment and all that. This is not me. I've got a big family. I like carrying my family in a real truck, not a minivan. This is my type of SUV. First of all, talking about the price, these large SUVs went up quite a bit in the past years. Even my Yukon, you know, jumped probably $20,000 Canadian here. So when we're looking at the price, they're getting really pricey lately. Starting price in Canada, quick reminder, in Canada, there's no base model like in the US, and all the models sold in Canada are 4x4. So you're not able to buy a 2x4 or 4x2, whatever you want to call it. So it starts at $77,915. In the US, you can get the XL model. It starts around $55,000. But today we're talking about the King Wrench edition. In Canada, it starts at $102,785. And if you're in the US, it starts at $78,465. This is not a 4x4 in the US. And the model I was testing this week, it's good for $108,585. And if you're in the US, it's around $86,000. Quite expensive, you know. Back just a few years ago, you know, paying those kind of price, you were able to buy a Navigator or an Escalade. Now these days you're stuck with an Expedition or a Yukon or a Tau. Under hood, we've got a V6 3.5 liter EcoBoost matched to a 10-speed transmission. As usual, this is the only powertrain you can get under a hood of the Expedition. So there's no V8s, no diesel. You've got a little bit more choice if you're looking at the GM products, either if you're at Chevrolet, GMC, or Cadillac. Same thing for Jeep. If we're looking at the Wagoneer, Grand Wagoneer, we've got two different powertrain now. We've got the Hurricane HO. We used to have the 6.4 liter Hemi, but I don't think it's available anymore. But inside of the Expedition, there's different EcoBoosts. So there's one good for 280 horsepower and 470 foot-pounds of torque. This is good. You can find this engine inside of the XL STX model and the XLT model. When you go to the Limited and King Wrench, it's good for 400 horsepower and 480 foot-pounds of torque. And if you're choosing the Timberline model, it comes with the EcoBoost HO, the same powertrain you can find in the Navigator or the F-150 Raptor. So this is good for 440 horsepower and 510 foot-pounds of torque. Back in the day, you know, maybe this is my memory who's giving me some tricks, but the King Wrench Unlimited used to have the HO. I think that back in the day, you were not able to get the King Wrench, but the Limited used to have the big engine under the hood. And it's not the case anymore. Now it's only the Timberline. This is kind of weird for me. I think maybe for off-roading, and I think maybe the differential ratio and all that is different inside of the Timberline. I drove the Timberline 2 years ago. I was not really impressed with the Timberline package. From my point of view, this package is kind of like a urban, you know, cartoon version of someone going camping. It's not like a real nice off-road package. I'm not a big fan of the Timberline. It looks like you're inside of like a lumberjack store, and they pick and choose like kind of like patterns from a chainsaw company and try to apply it inside of a truck or SUV. I think those Timberline models have been made by a bunch of you know, engineer and designer who live in the city and thought it would be nice to do those package, and the people in the country who are doing, you know, off-roading or camping will like it. And I think it's not the case. And even in the new Explorer, the Timberline model is not available anymore. So I think the Timberline model was not a success. Obviously, the model I was driving is a 4x4. Performance-wise, pretty decent. You can do the 0 to 100 kilometers in about 6.9 seconds, 7.7 seconds, 0 to 60 miles an hour. Handling-wise, the Expedition is pretty decent. It's not quite yet at the level you can find at GM with the Tahoe, the Yukon, and the Escalade. I think GM have been doing a great job for the handling. Even back in the day, I was invited in Detroit. We were on the testing proving ground at GM, and we were comparing the handling at higher speed, like kind of like in a country road, but inside of proving ground. So we had like a nice ride inside of a Tahoe and a Suburban, and after that a ride inside of the Expedition. And you know, just looking at the pace and the ride quality and all that, just the way the truck were handling, the GM products were way superior. So it's not only my point of view. We did some back-to-back testing, obviously at the GM proving ground, but still we were able to have our own opinion and testing, you know, the suspension. I think the Expedition, ride-wise, comfort-wise, it's right in between GM and Jeep. Jeep is like the off-road one. GM is really more handling, but still really comfortable. The model I was driving had the adaptive suspension. It's not quite there with the GM products. If you're looking at a well-equipped Yukon Denali, that's probably the same price as this King Ranch. It will mix the adaptive suspension with the air suspension, and that's really what's missing on this Expedition. It's the comfort we can find with the air suspension on the GM products. So it's quite nice. The handling is not quite there. We still have some big chunky tires that always help a lot to improve, you know, the comfort. When you're getting into really big wheels like 22s, 24s, now the new Tahoe is going to come with 24s. It's hard to really manage and have like the right suspension to really improve the comfort. And, you know, it depends where you're living. If you're down in Texas or Florida, you know, those trucks gonna have a nice ride. If you have bigger wheels, it doesn't matter. Or here in Quebec, we have really bad roads. So when you have like low profile tires and you hit those puddles, you see the difference. Design wise, if we're looking at the exterior of this Expedition, there's not a big difference between the models. It's been refreshed back in 2021. Different wheels. This is the one next to me on the screen. This is an older model. This is not the actual one I was driving. Not a big improvement from my point of view. I think the Expedition and also the Lincoln Navigator are at the end of their generation, especially if you're looking at other models. The Wagoneer, Grand Wagoneer, it's newer. The new, even the GM products, it's newer, and there's a refresh coming up, already coming this summer. We already saw the Tahoe and Suburban. Yukon and Escalade are coming also. I saw some spy shot of the Yukon. So Ford needs to bring completely a new model to improve the Expedition, because it's probably in the big three right now. It's the oldest model of those three big SUVs. So not a big improvement on the outside. Inside, we've got a nice improvement, especially on the screen compared to the older screen we can find a couple of years ago. You've got the choice of two screen, one really big vertical one and a smaller one when you're in lower trim. I saw the small one when I was in Utah. We were inside of some Expedition XLT, so it's pretty rare we have the chance to experience those lower trim level. But when you get those higher trim level, you got that really big screen, and that's the biggest improvement for the interior. Otherwise, the rest of the interior is the same old interior. I'm not a big fan of that metal console where we put our phone. I think it's difficult to put our phone there to where we have the wireless charger. I'm not a fan also of the gear changer, that roulette in the metal console. That console need to be completely remade from my point of view. Otherwise, King Ranch interior, it's one of my favorite. I love that interior. I love the details. There's a bunch of small logos all around. That armrest in the metal with the big logo, I really like it. A big plus also, all those seats, you've got that really nice trim of the King Ranch. It's not only the front seat, it's also the second and the third row. So that's pretty rare. Usually when you have like spatial stitching, spatial logo, it's always the first, the front seats, and the other seats are just like same color but not as detailed. It's not the case inside of that King Ranch. I love the King Ranch interior. It's my favorite by far. The only thing with the King Ranch package, I'm not a big fan of the two-tone exterior. I would like to have like maybe an option of like a monochrome, something like a Denali Ultimate. We can find that GMC. We've got that really cool interior, kind of like a cowboy interior, but we've got that blackout, our more luxurious kind of like exterior feel. Not that two-tone with chrome. I feel it looks outdated, and it will please a older crowd from my point of view. If you have like the option to have like a King Ranch but with like a blackout exterior, or maybe all white but removing the chrome, something like that, I think it will be a cool match to mix those two. But otherwise, interior wise, super comfortable seats, plenty of space in the second row, plenty of space in the third row. It's not the biggest on the market. You have to choose between the normal Expedition and also the Max if you need more space. The GM have a little bit more space in the last row and also in the cargo area. Same thing for the Wagoneer and Wagoneer L. Those have the most spacious third row and most spacious cargo space. So these days, the Expedition between the threes are the smallest one, cargo-wise and interior-wise. It's not a big deal, but as I experienced in the past, while traveling, especially if you're more than 4 people and you're bringing a lot of luggage, you should definitely choose the longer version, especially if you keep up that last row, that third row. So if you're traveling with maybe 4 children or maybe more, definitely you need that longer version, just like a Suburban. Fuel economy wise, I was quite impressed with the Expedition. I was averaging between 11 and 12 liters per 100 kilometers. I was able to put it in eco mode, and it was pretty decent on the highway. I did mostly highway, but at one point I was stuck in the traffic and I was still able to keep up those numbers. If we're looking at the US, it's around 20 miles per gallon. Pretty decent. I could say probably the Expedition with the EcoBoost. It's if you're looking just at the gasoline version, it will be the best on fuel. But if you're looking at the GM products with the diesel is king. If fuel economy, it's #1 for you. The Duramax engine inside of the Tahoe, Yukon, and Escalade, you can do 1,000 kilometers with them. Probably you can do 28 miles per gallon. So around maybe 8 or 9 liters per 100 kilometers easily. I've been doing a lot of tests with those Duramax engine. My dad owns ones. My sister have one. They're all satisfied. They do easily 1,000 kilometers with them. And you know, a diesel will be always, I could say, always a little bit better when you're idling. You know, you're warming up your SUV for your family, or you're cooling down your SUV when it's hot. It's a little bit easier on the fuel side. Yes, these days, especially in Canada, the diesel is quite expensive. But if you want to, you know, pull out all the performance from the EcoBoost, you should definitely use the iOctane 91 at least in the EcoBoost. So price-wise for the fuel, it's probably the same for you know, 91 or diesel. But of course, you can save a little bit on money by using not the 91. It's not required, but it's recommended, I could say. Back in the day when I used to work at Ford, we always recommend to use 91 octane or higher while, you know, especially if you're towing and working hard with your EcoBoost engine. Overall, you know, the Expedition is pretty solid. It's getting quite expensive for my point of view, a little bit too expensive for this older model. If you're on the market to buy something like that, I would wait. I'm sure maybe in a few months, we're going to see a new Expedition, a new generation. Nothing has been announced yet, but with the new Tahoe, new Yukon, new Escalade coming up this summer and all that, I'm sure Ford will have to do something about their Expedition and Navigator. So if you're looking for those, maybe wait till they announce the new model. So they're going to put some discount on those older models, or just wait for the new model because it's quite expensive. You know, $108,000. And you know, I'm right there with you guys if you're shopping for this, because I'm shopping large SUVs all the time for my family. You know, right now I own my Ram TRX, but for sure my next truck will be a large SUV like that for my family. I'm going back to a large SUV. So if we're planning to travel and all that, it's always the best. Got plenty of space in my TRX, but you know, we're already 5 persons. So if we need to bring an extra person inside of my TRX, it doesn't work. So that's why I'm still shopping for those large SUVs all the time. There's some rumors about a Raptor version. So maybe in the future, they're gonna remove that Timberline package and maybe replace it with a Raptor package, or maybe an active package. There's a new package, kind of like an off-roady package for the Explorer. So maybe that's something you can expect, because the Wagoneer is quite capable for doing some off-roading. And also at GM, you can have the Z71 package, the ET4 at GMC and all that. So once again, Ford needs to bring something to the table to compete against those off-road packaging you can find at GM. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about the Expedition King Ranch? Is it worth it? Or you're just like me and you're like, I might wait for the new generation because this one's getting old. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And we're going to see each other on the next podcast. Big time.